The storm had just ended when Cole stepped out of his small rover, boots sinking into the soft gray soil of the desolate moon. Clouds of dust still floated in the air, and pieces of twisted metal were scattered across the rocky plain. It was a crash site, one of the worst he'd seen. Cole, a human engineer working on outpost repair missions, was not a soldier or a scientist, but when a distress signal had been detected nearby, he had volunteered to investigate. His rover scanned the area as he walked toward the center of the wreck. Most of the alien ship was broken and signs of life were weak. He climbed over a half-buried panel and found something that stopped him in his tracks. A small escape pod, intact, and inside it, a child. The pod door hissed slightly as it opened. Cold air and smoke rushed out. The child inside looked up at him, eyes wide and glowing softly in the dim light. She had pale blue skin, short hair, and small ears that looked different from any human. She was shaking, clutching the strange-looking blanket. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Cole knelt down slowly, raising both hands to show he meant no harm. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." The girl blinked at him but didn't move. Her chest was rising and falling fast. Cole's translator tried to decode her language, but it came back with errors. She was too weak to speak clearly. Cole checked the pod. It had low oxygen, failing systems, and no sign of anyone else inside. He scanned the area again. No other pods. No survivors. Just debris. He looked back at the girl. "You're alone, aren't you?" he whispered. Without another word, he reached in gently, picked her up, and wrapped her in his coat. She didn't fight. In fact, she clung to him, as if afraid to be left behind again. Back in the rover, Cole placed her on the medical bed and gave her water through a dropper. The girl drank slowly, then leaned into him. She murmured something softly. "Hura." The translator buzzed but couldn't explain the word. Cole looked at her. "Hura, is that your name?" She shook her head slowly. "No, Hura," she repeated, as if it meant something else, something important. By the time Cole returned to the human colony, the girl had fallen asleep on his shoulder. The security team was confused when he arrived with a child wrapped in a thermal blanket. The colony doctor examined her quickly and said she was undernourished, but otherwise healthy. "Species?" one officer asked. "Unknown. Closest match is a matriarchal race from the Zilari sector," the doctor replied. "But we'll need more data." They placed her in the medical wing, but she refused to let go of Cole's hand. When the nurse tried to separate them, the girl cried and screamed in a language no one could understand. Finally, the council allowed Cole to stay by her side. Over the next few days, she grew calmer. She didn't speak much, but she always looked for Cole. When he entered the room, she smiled. When he left, she watched the door until he returned. The word Hura became common between them. Still, no alien group came forward to claim her. No one responded to the broadcast messages sent out to nearby systems. The crash site revealed no other bodies or names. She was alone. Cole sat before the colony board a week later. "You want to keep her?" the leader asked. Cole nodded. "No one has come for her. I can give her a home. I'm not asking for special treatment. I don't want her left in a system that doesn't care." There was silence in the room. Finally, the colony council agreed. Under Earth colony law, Cole became the legal guardian of the unnamed alien child. He signed the documents, and she was given a new ID. Since her real name was unknown, Cole called her Luma, a word meaning light. Luma moved in with him. She didn't speak much at first, but she smiled more and more each day. She helped water the plants, watched old Earth cartoons, and learned to eat human food, though she didn't like the taste of potatoes. Cole set up a small bedroom for her. She decorated it with shiny rocks and paper drawings. At night, she curled up in bed and whispered that word again. Hura. Cole still didn't know what it meant, but the way she said it, softly, with a smile. It sounded like something more than just a word. Maybe it meant father or home. He didn't ask anymore. He just listened. Several months had passed since Cole adopted Luma. Life on the colony had settled into a quiet routine. Luma had become part of the small human community. She went to school with other children, played with robots in the yard, and even helped Cole fix old machines at the repair shop. She was learning English quickly now. She asked questions about Earth, about space, and even about the stars. But there was one thing she never stopped saying. Hurrah. Cole had asked her about it once more, gently. What does hurrah mean, Luma? She tilted her head and smiled. Hurrah means the one who saves and protects. Cole blinked. Is that what you call me? She nodded and hugged him tightly. You are my hurrah. His chest felt heavy and warm at the same time. It was the closest thing to a thank you he'd ever gotten from her. He never asked again. One evening, a strange alert appeared on the colony scanners. Unregistered ship approaching. The security officer reported. Unknown design. Not human. Cole stood near the window in the control tower and watched as the dark, sleek ship landed on the outer pad. The engines hissed softly as they powered down. The shape of the ship was like a crescent, smooth and elegant. No weapons were visible, but it gave off a powerful presence. The colony guards raised their weapons but didn't fire. Everyone waited. Then the hatch opened. Out stepped a tall, glowing woman with pale blue-purple skin, just like Luma's. She wore a long dress that shimmered like silver, and her eyes glowed softly in the evening light. She looked calm but serious. Cole felt something in his chest shift. She walked toward the gates, and when she reached the guards, she spoke in perfect English. I am Scifi. I am here to find the human who took my daughter. Cole stood near the entrance when Scifi arrived. She looked at him like a commander might look at a soldier. Calm, steady, and a little cold. You are the one called Cole? She asked. He nodded slowly. Yes, I've been taking care of Luma. Her eyes flicked across his face. I see. There was a long silence between them. Then she said, You adopted my daughter. According to my people's law, that means you now belong to me as well. Cole blinked. What? Scifi tilted her head slightly. On my world, when a child is left behind and another raises them, the one who adopts the child also takes in the surviving parent. The law is ancient. It ensures the family is never broken again. Cole took a deep breath. With respect, I didn't know about that law. I only wanted to help Luma. I understand, she said softly. And yet, the law stands. Before he could respond, Luma came running from the nearby building. Mother, she cried, eyes wide. Scifi knelt, arms open. Luma ran into her embrace, and they held each other tightly. For a long moment, no one spoke. Cole watched them quietly. Scifi pulled back and looked into Luma's face. Have they been kind to you? Luma nodded. I have a room, a school, and toys. Cole makes good food, except the brown round ones. He calls them meatballs. I do not like meatballs. A tiny smile appeared on Scifi's lips. She stood again and turned to Cole. My daughter is safe and well. For that, I am thankful. But you must understand, under Scifi custom, we are now bonded. Cole shook his head, still confused. What does that mean in plain words? It means I will stay with you. I will not take Luma away. But we must live as one family, under the same roof. Cole opened his mouth, then closed it again. His life had already changed the day he took Luma in. Now it was changing again. He looked down at Luma, who smiled up at him with bright, hopeful eyes. Later that evening, the colony council met. Scifi explained the traditions of her people. They were a matriarchal society, where family and unity were valued more than war or politics. A child without both parents was seen as incomplete. To leave a child without their parent, even if the parent survived, was dishonorable. The council debated the matter for hours, but because Scifi came in peace, and because Luma wanted to stay with both of them, they allowed it. Scifi was granted permission to live in the colony with Cole and Luma under temporary cultural guardianship. Cole walked home in silence with both of them. When they reached the small home, Scifi looked around with raised eyebrows. "It is simple, but it will do." Cole raised a brow. "Not used to small rooms." "I once lived in a star palace," she replied. He chuckled. "Well, welcome to the garage with a broken heater." She looked at him strangely. Then Luma pulled both of their hands and said cheerfully, "We are family now." Cole smiled, nervously. Scifi didn't smile, but she didn't let go of his hand either. Something had begun. Something none of them could yet understand. The following days were strange for Cole. Though he had lived in the colony for years, he never expected his quiet life to turn upside down like this. Scifi, the regal alien woman, had settled into the small house with him and Luma, but there was something about her presence that made everything feel different. Scifi didn't speak much at first. She seemed to study everything around her, the way Cole worked, the way the colony operated, even the way the humans interacted with each other. It was clear she wasn't accustomed to the simplicity of human life. She didn't sleep much either. Instead, she spent long nights staring out of the window, her eyes fixed on the stars. Luma had begun to notice this and asked her mother one evening, "Why do you always look at the stars, Mom?" Scifi's eyes softened, but her expression was serious. "The stars remind me of home. My people, my planet, are far away. I used to look at them, hoping for something." Luma frowned. "What were you hoping for?" "I was hoping to return," she said quietly. "But now, I am here." As the days went on, Scifi and Cole slowly began to understand each other better. Cole had a unique mix of patience and practicality, which made her respect him more than she expected. Scifi, despite her high position among her people, was surprisingly humble. She wasn't interested in power or control. She was simply trying to understand the strange world she now found herself in. One afternoon, Cole and Scifi sat at the kitchen table, where he had just finished explaining human farming techniques. Scifi listened intently, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. She seemed especially interested in the water system, which was very different from what she knew. "I never thought humans would manage water so well," she commented. Cole smiled. "We had to learn quickly. Water's life here. Without it, the colony wouldn't survive." She nodded thoughtfully. "Where I come from, we have great technology, but it is not enough for everyone. Our resources are limited." Cole looked at her carefully. "And that's why your people follow these old laws of yours." Scifi's face hardened slightly. "The law was created to ensure family unity. We believe that children who are separated from their parents should not grow up alone. And if the human adopts a child from our people, they must also accept the mother, because it's the law." Cole furrowed his brow. "That's a lot to ask of someone, especially a stranger." Scifi's expression softened. "It's not about control. It's about survival. My people understand the importance of family. When Luma was left alone, I had to follow the law. And now, you are part of our family, whether you wanted it or not." Cole leaned back in his chair. "I never asked for this, Scifi. I only wanted to help Luma. But here we are. And it's not the worst thing in the world." Scifi's eyes softened. "I know. You are kind, and you have made her happy." Days turned into weeks, and the odd family unit continued to grow closer. Luma was happier than ever, and though Cole still didn't fully understand all the customs of Scifi's people, he tried his best to adapt. They even began to teach each other. Scifi taught him about alien technology, while Cole shared human history and Earth's natural wonders. But things weren't always easy. One day, as Cole was walking through the colony square, a group of alien diplomats from the Scifi sector arrived. They looked around with curiosity, their eyes scanning the area. They approached Cole as he passed by, one of them speaking in a deep, almost monotone voice. "Human, we have come to speak to the one who has adopted the Zilari child." Cole stopped in his tracks. He had no idea these diplomats knew about him, or about Luma. "What do you want?" The alien diplomat's eyes glowed faintly. "You have broken the law of our people." Cole felt a chill run down his spine. "I'm not breaking any law. I'm taking care of her. By taking her as your own, you have defied the expectations of our people. You have not followed our custom. The child should have been returned. You must give her back." Cole took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm not giving her back. She's my responsibility now." The diplomat raised his voice, speaking harshly. "It is not your choice. The laws of the Zilari are clear. You will come with us. The matter must be settled." Just then, Sailari appeared at the edge of the square, her gaze piercing. Her eyes met the diplomat's, and for a moment, the air between them was tense. Luma stood next to her, looking between the adults in confusion. "You will not take her," Sailari said, her voice quiet but firm. "The law may say one thing, but my heart says another. This human is Luma's family now, and I will not allow you to tear us apart." The diplomats hesitated, clearly shocked by Sailari's stance. It wasn't often that anyone, especially someone of her rank, openly defied their own customs. The tension in the air was thick. But after what felt like an eternity, they backed away. "We will consult with the council," one of the diplomats finally said, his tone less certain than before. "But remember, our laws will be enforced." As the diplomats retreated, Sailari turned to Cole. "Do not want to do that," she said quietly. "But it seems there is still much about our customs that needs to change." Cole nodded. "I don't know if we'll ever fully understand each other, Sailari, but if it means protecting Luma, I'll stand with you, no matter what." And with that, something shifted between them. It wasn't just about law anymore. It was about something more important. It was about family. Weeks passed after the confrontation with the Zilari diplomats. Life in the colony slowly returned to normal. Cole, Sailari, and Luma found their own rhythm. They continued to adjust to one another, each learning from the other's culture. Yet, a quiet tension remained, like an invisible thread pulling them in different directions. Sailari had never expected to stay on Earth for so long. The laws of her people had been clear, but so were her own feelings. Luma had become her anchor, but now, living among humans, there was much Sailari couldn't quite understand. One evening, Cole walked into the living room to find Sailari staring out the window, her posture stiff. Luma was sitting beside her, playing with a small toy, but her eyes kept drifting to her mother's face. "Is everything okay?" Cole asked gently. Sailari turned her head, her eyes betraying a hint of sadness. "I don't belong here, Cole. My people, my world, they are far away. There is a part of me that feels as though I am lost." Cole walked closer and sat down. "I get it. You left everything behind. It's not easy, is it?" She shook her head. "I thought I could forget my world, but every time I look out at the stars, I remember. And I know, no matter how much I care for Luma, I will never fully belong to your world." Luma looked up from her toy. "Mom, you're home, aren't you?" Sailari smiled at her daughter. "I am, but it's different than before. You're happy here, Luma, and that's what matters." Luma pouted for a moment, then grabbed her mother's hand. "You don't have to be sad, Mom. We have each other now, and Dad is here." Cole smiled at Luma's words. "She's right, you know." Sailari's lips twitched into a faint smile. "I know, but sometimes it's hard. The Zilari people, they're proud. And I left without saying goodbye." Cole reached out and touched her hand. "You've done your best, Sailari, and I'll support you, no matter what. But you're not alone. Luma's here. I'm here." For the first time in a while, Sailari felt a wave of warmth fill her chest. She looked at Cole, really looked at him, and saw a man who didn't care about laws or politics, a man who had chosen to care for a child from another world, a man who had made her daughter part of his life. Her heart softened. The next day, Salieri asked Cole to show her more about Earth. She wanted to understand more, to experience the world that had taken in her child. They traveled around the colony together, visiting the markets, seeing human inventions, and meeting some of the other families. Salieri was especially curious about Earth's traditions, about how people lived with such different customs. At the market, Cole noticed Salieri's interest in a food stall. She was staring at a small fruit, the skin a deep shade of red. "What's this?" she asked, pointing to the fruit. "That's an apple," Cole answered. "You've never had one." Salieri shook her head. "No, our people only eat certain foods and fruit. It's a rarity." "Well, you're in for a treat." He bought one and handed it to her. She hesitated, then took a bite. Her eyes widened. "It's sweet. I didn't know food could taste this good." Cole chuckled. "Wait until you try a pie made from those apples. Humans do love their pies." "Pie," Salieri repeated, nodding. "This world is so strange." They sat on a bench together, watching the busy market, the noise of voices and children playing in the background. Salieri smiled slightly, more relaxed than she had been in a long time. That evening, as the sun set over the colony, the quiet atmosphere in their home was broken by a knock on the door. Cole stood up and walked to the door, expecting one of the neighbors. Instead, he was surprised to see a group of Salieri soldiers standing outside, their uniforms sharp and their expressions unreadable. "Can I help you?" Cole asked, his voice cautious. One of the soldiers stepped forward. "We are here to speak to Salieri. We come under orders from the High Council of the Salieri people." Salieri, who had been sitting in the living room, stood up at the sound of her name. She walked toward the door, her face a mask of calm. "What is it you need?" she asked, her voice steady. The lead soldier spoke again. "The council has decided. We require your return. You are to leave this place immediately and return to Zilar." Cole's heart sank. Salieri had known this was a possibility, but hearing it out loud made it all too real. Luma, who had been playing with her toys, stood up and ran to her mother's side. "Mom, what's happening?" Salieri looked down at Luma, her face softening. "It's nothing, Luma. These people are just reminding me of my duty." But Luma wasn't fooled. She clutched her mother's hand tightly. "No, Mom, you can't leave me. I won't let you go." Salieri looked at the soldiers, then back at Cole. Her gaze was filled with a strange mix of sadness and resolve. "I must do this," she said softly, "but not without you." Cole's heart beat faster. "You're not going anywhere without me, Salieri. And you're not taking her away from Luma." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, but they held firm. "We have orders," the lead soldier replied, his voice unwavering. Cole took a step forward, his fists clenched. "Then I guess we'll have to make our own decision." The room was heavy with silence as the Salieri soldiers stood at the door, their presence like a shadow over the home Cole and Salieri had made. Luma's hands trembled as she held onto her mother, her small body pressed tightly against Salieri's. Her eyes were wide with fear, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, you're not going to leave me, are you?" Salieri looked down at her daughter, feeling the weight of her responsibility as a mother. She had always known that her people would come for her eventually, but hearing Luma's voice crack with fear made it all real. She hadn't wanted this life for her daughter. She hadn't wanted to bring her to a place where she would be torn between two worlds. "No, Luma," Salieri whispered, kneeling down to meet her eye level. "I'm not leaving you." But her words, though meant to comfort, did little to ease the fear in Luma's eyes. The lead soldier, standing firm at the threshold, crossed his arms. "Salieri, this is not your decision to make. The High Council has spoken. You are to return with us." Cole stood up from his seat, his fists clenched. He had always been the kind of man who avoided confrontation, But this time was different. This time, it wasn't just about him. It was about Luma, and about protecting the family he had grown to care for. "Enough of this," Cole said, his voice calm but firm. "You're not taking her." The soldier raised an eyebrow. "You don't understand. This is the law of the Zilari people. She has broken it by staying here, by attaching herself to this human colony." Cole stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "I don't care about your laws. You're not taking Zilari or Luma anywhere. This is their home now." The soldier's gaze hardened, but he didn't move. "Then you leave us no choice. If you refuse to comply, we will be forced to take you both by force." Cole's heart raced, but his resolve remained firm. He had never been a fighter. He wasn't a soldier. But he was a man willing to do anything to protect the people he loved. "Try it," Cole said, his voice cold. "I'll fight you if I have to. I'll protect them." The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. They had expected resistance, but not this kind of defiance. The human before them was not just standing in their way. He was challenging everything they had been taught about obedience and duty. Zilari, watching the interaction unfold, felt something stir inside her. She had spent her life obeying the laws of her people, living by the rules set out for her by the High Council. But in that moment, she realized something crucial. Her daughter and Cole had shown her a different way to live. A way where love, loyalty, and family mattered more than laws and orders. "I will not go back," Zilari said, her voice suddenly strong, no longer filled with doubt. "I will not return to a place that would tear my family apart. Not for any law. Not for any council." The lead soldier's eyes narrowed. "You are making a grave mistake." Cole turned to Zilari, his face serious. "We can't keep doing this. They won't stop until they get what they want. But we can make them understand that this," he gestured to Luma, standing beside Zilari, "is what really matters. And we'll protect it." Luma looked up at her mother, her eyes filled with determination, despite the fear she still felt. "I'm not afraid, Mom. We can do this together. We're a family now." The words hit Zilari like a wave. She had always been strong, but now, standing here with her daughter and the human who had given them both a new chance at life, she felt something deeper than loyalty to her old life. She felt love. Real, unconditional love that was worth fighting for. The soldier raised his hand, signaling his comrades. "We will return with a higher authority. You will not escape this. You cannot defy the law forever." But as they turned to leave, Cole's voice stopped them. "We don't need your permission to live our lives. This is our decision. We'll fight for it." The soldiers hesitated at the door, clearly torn. They were trained to follow orders, but they weren't prepared for this kind of resistance. They looked to Zilari for guidance. She stood tall, her eyes unwavering as she gazed at the soldiers. "Go back to your council. Tell them that I have chosen my family, and I will not be moved." The soldiers exchanged a final, reluctant glance before stepping outside, their boots echoing in the silence of the house. Zilari closed the door behind them, her body tense, but her heart lighter than it had been in days. Luma ran to her, throwing her arms around her. "You did it, Mom. You said no." Zilari hugged her daughter tightly, her heart swelling with pride. "We did it, Luma. Together." Cole watched them with a smile. It wasn't easy, and they weren't out of danger yet, but for the first time, he felt as if they were truly a family. They had fought for each other, and that meant more than any law, any tradition, or any enemy. "Thank you," Zilari said softly to Cole, "for standing with us." He nodded. "I'll always stand with you, all of you." They didn't know what would happen next. They didn't know if the Zilari Council would send more soldiers or take more drastic actions. But one thing was certain, they were ready to face it together. The days following the confrontation with the Zilari soldiers were filled with tension. Cole, Zilari, and Luma knew that this wasn't over. The High Council of the Zilari people had made it clear. They would not simply let go of Scifi and Luma without a fight. Yet, as each day passed, the family grew stronger in their resolve. They had found something they were willing to protect, something more important than tradition or law. Cole had always been a man of action, not words. He didn't like fighting or conflict, but now he was ready to do whatever it took to keep his family safe. He knew Scifi was the key to their survival. She was strong, intelligent, and capable of holding her ground. But even with her strength, he knew the situation wasn't simple. Her past, her obligations to her people, were not easy to shake off. Scifi spent most of her time thinking. She would stand by the window for hours, staring out into the distance, as if looking for something. Cole noticed the way she sometimes sighed, her shoulders heavy with thoughts he couldn't reach. One night, after dinner, Scifi sat at the small table in a corner of the room, her hands folded in front of her. Luma had gone to bed, exhausted from a long day of playing with other children in the colony. Cole was finishing up some work in the corner of the room when Scifi spoke. "I don't belong here, Cole." Cole paused, looking up from his work. He had heard these words before. They had lingered in the air between them, unspoken for days. Scifi wasn't used to Earth, and part of her still felt the pull of her home. But Cole had never once doubted her commitment to their family, even when she seemed distant. "You don't have to belong here, Scifi," Cole said softly. "You just have to be here, with us. That's enough." She looked at him, her gaze intense but kind. "You don't understand. My people, they expect me to return. They expect me to follow their rules, their way of life. It's what I've always known." "And I get that," Cole replied, his voice steady. "But you're here now. This is your home too, if you want it to be. No one's going to force you to go back, not while we're here." Scifi looked down at the table, her fingers tracing the worn wood. The silence between them stretched on for a long moment. Then she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Part of me wants to go back. But another part of me is afraid to lose what we have here. I'm afraid of losing you both." Cole crossed the room and sat next to her, placing a hand gently on hers. "You won't lose us. We're a family. And family means standing together, no matter what comes next." Scifi took a deep breath and nodded. "I know, but it's hard. I spent my entire life following my people's traditions, and now I'm being asked to choose between them and the life we've made here. Between the law and love." Cole squeezed her hand. "You don't have to make that choice alone. Whatever you decide, I'll be here. Luma will be here. You're not alone in this." Scifi closed her eyes, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. For so long, she had lived her life by the rules of the Scifi. But now, in the quiet of this small human home, she realized something. The rules she had followed didn't define her. Her love for Luma, for Cole, that was what truly mattered. She didn't need to be bound by the laws of her people anymore. She didn't need to live by the expectations of a world that was far away. "I've made my decision," Scifi said, her voice firm but gentle. Cole looked at her, waiting. "I will not go back," Scifi said with finality. "I found something here that I've never had before. Something worth more than tradition, more than power. I've found a family. And I won't let anyone take that from me." Cole smiled, a sense of relief washing over him. He had known she would make this choice, but hearing it from her lips made it real. "I'm glad you're with us," Cole said quietly. Scifi looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I never thought I could find peace here, but I found it with you." Luma came running into the room, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" Scifi turned to her daughter, her face softening. "Everything's fine, Luma. Everything's going to be fine." Luma's face lit up, and she ran to her mother, throwing her arms around her. "You're staying, Mom. You're not going anywhere." Scifi laughed softly, pulling Luma into a warm hug. "I'm staying, sweetheart. I'm right here. We're all going to be together. Cole stood up and looked at the two of them. The sight of them, his two girls, made his heart swell with pride. They had been through so much, and yet here they were, stronger than ever. Scifi turned to him, her eyes shining. "Thank you, Cole, for everything." He smiled back. "There's nothing I wouldn't do for you both." For the first time in a long while, Scifi felt peace settle in her heart. She had made her decision, and she knew it was the right one. Her family was here, and no matter what the future held, she would protect them with everything she had. The weeks that followed Scifi's decision felt like a new beginning. The tension that had once filled their home slowly faded. Scifi no longer spent her nights staring at the stars, lost in thoughts of what could have been. Instead, she spent her days helping Cole around the house, learning more about human life, and watching Luma grow into a confident, happy child. Life on the colony became a blend of the familiar and the new. Cole's days were filled with work at the colony's repair shop, while Scifi began to embrace her role as Luma's mother in this new world. She learned how to cook simple human meals, like pasta and soup, and she even tried her hand at baking cookies, though her first batch had been a little too sweet. But the real change came when the colony, which had once viewed them with suspicion, began to accept them as a family. At first, Scifi had felt like an outsider, but slowly the people of the colony began to see her not as an alien, but as a mother, a neighbor, and a friend. One evening, Cole and Scifi were invited to a community gathering. It was a small celebration to welcome new arrivals to the colony, and everyone was invited to bring something to share. Scifi had never been to a human social event before, and she felt nervous about how she would be received. "Don't worry," Cole reassured her as they walked to the gathering. "They'll love you. You'll see." When they arrived, Scifi was surprised to find that the others were warm and welcoming. They offered her food, drinks, and stories about life on Earth. There was even a dance floor set up, and Luma immediately joined the other children, laughing and dancing without a care in the world. Scifi sat with Cole, watching Luma, and for the first time since her arrival, she felt a deep sense of peace. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about living, about truly being part of something. As the night wore on, Cole stood up and took Scifi's hand. "Come on, let's dance." Scifi hesitated, unsure of how to move to the human rhythm, but Cole guided her gently. They moved together, the music surrounding them. And for a moment, everything else faded away. The doubts, the fears, everything that had once weighed them down. All that mattered was the moment, the simple joy of being together. Luma joined them a few minutes later, still full of energy and laughter. She grabbed her mother's hand and tugged her into the circle of dancers, pulling Cole along with them. The three of them danced together, laughing, and in that moment, Scifi realized something important. This wasn't just a place she had come to escape from her past. This was home. And they were her family, not because of any law or tradition, but because of the love and care they shared for one another. The next morning, Scifi woke up early, as she had grown accustomed to doing. She sat by the window, watching the sunrise paint the sky with hues of orange and pink. It was a new day, and she was ready for whatever it would bring.